Nicole Auerbach joins us, and I just heard your dad's a Jets fan, so good for him.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, listen, there's few and far things for them to be excited about, so
yeah.
he'll take it.
And we had the Michigan Wolverines got to win yesterday. I was joking that I also had a good weekend, like with Virginia on a bye, so that was good for
Yep.
for
Yep.
everybody on the program.
Congratulations on
Yeah,
that.
no problem. But let's get to the place. Like I had major FOMO last night watching. I think everybody who wasn't in Knoxville last night had a little bit of FOMO. Like I would have loved to have seen what that felt like there. I mean, I'd love to help them carry that goalpost out of there. I mean, like incredible atmosphere. Is Tennessee the best team in the country now?
So I ranked them number one in my overnight ranking, and they got some first place votes in the AP poll and all the various polls. And I said, listen, they have the best one in the country. I get that people want to keep Georgia there based on just throttling Oregon week one, or I think Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country. They haven't really played anybody. Clemson's actually the only team that has a win over two top 25 teams, which
Mm,
is kind of crazy because we're not even
yeah.
talking about them. But to me, Alabama has the best win in the country. And what I thought was really great about it was just they won the game the way Tennessee wins games this year. Like that, they did not go away from anything that they're good at,
Right.
and they absorbed the punches late. I mean, how many times have we seen Alabama win that game, even though
Yep.
they probably shouldn't? We just saw that against Texas a few weeks ago. So I thought it was awesome. I think I put them as number one. I'm willing to fluctuate week to week, but to me, like that is the best win that anybody has this year.
Yeah, it was incredible, and they did like they leaned into who they were. I mean, all their scoring drives early were like 2 minutes. I mean, the
Yes.
tempo was crazy, and I jumped on the live over, and I was like, damn, that's a lot of points, but it just kept rising and rising into the 90s on the WinBet app. I was like, they can't possibly do this, but they did. They kept pace the whole game, and the end of that game, I feel like you're walking away and you're saying, I feel better about Bryce Young after
Oh
last
yeah.
night. Like
Yeah.
it's a loss, but I actually feel like he's better than I thought he was when I woke up yesterday.
Which is crazy to say about a Heisman Trophy winner, but like you can see, I was listening to some of my pals, and they were like, "He's one of one," and that is
Yeah.
exactly what he is. They would have no chance in that game. That game would have been a blowout without Bryce Young. He is such a special player, and we weren't really sure, how healthy he'd be. That's a tough dude. I mean, he absorbed
Yeah,
a lot of hits in that game too.
he sure did.
Um, so it was just you mentioned like the goalposts and everything that happened afterwards. Did you see that Tennessee is fundraising off of this and asking for people to help pay for the new goalposts?
That
Like,
seems like ambitious, doesn't it?
well, I was just like, listen, you're bringing in like what $55 million a year from TV
Right.
revenue. Like, what are we doing here? I
You
know what
can't
you're
find that
trying
in
to
the
do.
couch cushion. I actually thought that was a like an Onion article or something when I saw it,
Yeah.
and it turned out to be real. Huh? This is the first I'm learning that it was real.
Well, I think they're saying like, do you want to fundraise? Like, you
Yeah.
can give us,
Yeah.
16 for breaking this, the 16-year drought, blah blah blah. So I get all of that. The thing that I was most fascinated about with the post game, because yes, absolutely looked incredible and also
Yeah.
really therapeutic. And
Yeah.
I was in Ann Arbor last year when Michigan snapped its streak against Ohio State, so I know
Yes.
how the stadium
Yeah.
feels in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, right? Like it's like heaving, and it looked that way in Knoxville too. So I had questions about this, about the cigars.
Yeah.
So first of all, obviously, like they just let everybody bring cigars and lighters and cutters and everything into the stadium, I
That's
assume, because
really interesting. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
I assume that there's just like a wink, wink, nod, nod. But also,
Yeah.
do you think that those Tennessee fans, who maybe they're not bringing them every single year just in case, but like these last few years, there obviously haven't been you know, a ton of faith. But do you worry about jinxing yourself by packing a cigar in your pocket? I would.
Yeah, I think you do. I think we've gotten to the point in society where like if you tweet anything remotely positive about a team who's winning and they lose, like people are like you that's your fault. Like people are so obsessed with jinxes. I don't think there's anything
Mm-hmm.
to it. In fact, I always tell this story like before the Super Bowl when we were playing I was in New England. We were getting ready to play the Falcons, and man, this looked like a jinx for about 3.5 quarters, but me and a couple D linemen got a couple bottles of Andre at CVS, and packed him in our
Andre.
bag. Yeah, well, we
Love
forgot.
that.
We forgot until the last minute. We should have gotten some. I'm sure the DBs would have had some or the wide receivers would have had some better champagne. But I think had we lost, that would have been a huge jinx. I think I would have looked back at that and been like, I'm an idiot. I don't know though.
Yeah.
The thing for me is, all these college kids were out there buzzing because people sleep on a cigar and what it does to you. Like a cigar will knock you on your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I had friends who were covering the game who were just like, it was a sea of smoke. Like every post game interview, everything on the field, it was just like this giant cloud of smoke. So yeah, I mean, even if you weren't personally smoking a cigar, like the secondhand,
you were getting a cigar
one
way or another. One way or another. I was really jealous. It was such a cool scene. Like once a year in college football, I feel like I have major FOMO looking at a situation, and that would have been really cool to be there. Okay, so Michigan destroys Penn State. Did we learn anything about either of these two teams?
Yeah, well, I think we learned Penn State is not in the same category as Michigan and Ohio State. And I feel like we do this every single time Penn State plays one of these teams. I know they've beaten Michigan in the James Franklin era, but like it feels like it's been a while. I think it's been 3 years. And,
right.
Like the COVID year and all that stuff. It was a weird season, but we just continually come out of these and talk about the gap that's there between Penn State and these other teams. And like, you heard Penn State defensive players just talking about like it was embarrassing. Like they were pushed around. Like Michigan's offensive line is awesome. They won the Joe Moore Award last year, and they might be even better this year. Blake Corum, legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. He should be. He's one of the best running backs in the country, if not the best. Yeah. So I feel like we learned that, and we learned that they just. JJ McCarthy used the term butt kicking, but it was an ass kicking, right? Like it was just a very thorough. It was a clinic. And the only reason it was even as close as it was at the half or even looks respectable at the end was because of a fluke pick six. So, it was just absolutely everything you wanted to see, I think, if you're a Michigan fan.
So, Michigan, real. Tennessee, real.
Yep.
Okay, bottom of your top 10, I'm going to read 4 unbeaten teams that are fun stories, but which one's actually legit? And which one could actually end up in the playoff? I mean, they're all legit except for maybe Syracuse. No offense to Syracuse. I love Syracuse. Like I always tell people, Carrier Dome, that's a beast to play up there. I'm happy for Coach Babers. They're fun, but they're not that good, right? I mean, I won't bring Syracuse into this. All right, UCLA, Ole Miss, or TCU? Which of the 3? Unless you were going to say Syracuse, which of those?
No, I was not. Although again, Syracuse has a clear path to the playoff. Beat Clemson, win the ACC, I guess.
Yep, it could happen.
I think you're right that those are probably the ones. I feel like the most likely of those 3 to be a true playoff contender is UCLA. I feel like that path is super clear. They've got Oregon this coming week in a massive game. Game day is going to that one because it's huge. But I think, UCLA, good enough team, really good offense, DTR, Jake Bobo, Zach Charbonnet, really love them, like really fun to watch. So if they get through this game, then it's really just USC at the end of the year. So, a one-loss Pac-12 team, one-loss Pac-12 champ, going to be in the playoff mix, I think, this year. And they also, could possibly get through all of this unblemished. If they do, they're certainly going to be in. So I feel like that's it. It would be hard to pick, Ole Miss, even though they played really well. Schedule's so backloaded, and it's the SEC. But so I'd go with the Bruins. But again, that could be proven totally wrong 6 days from now. So we'll see.
Speaking of the, I was up late sweating a Utah bet. Thank you very much, Kyle Whittingham. Love that guy. Love his attitude down there on 4th and 1. And going for it.
Yeah, that was great.
And
great.
Going for the win, too, like a 2-point conversion. So I love that. But I don't know if you saw this. Did you see the clock operation at the end of that game?
Yes.
What the hell was going on there?
So that was peak Pac-12 refs and Pac-12 officiating. I don't understand. There were multiple things wrong. Obviously, they didn't start the clock as the play was happening. And then they added more time instead of taking time off. If they had lost that game, that would have been an all-time officiating disaster.
All time.
That was so bad.
Well, so the guy picked, if you didn't watch the game, it's a very complicated situation, but Caleb is scrambling and throws a pick in the waning moments of that game. And there's pass interference. So the pick is obviously negated, but the time continues to run as the player returns the interception. and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the clock. The ball is picked off with around 14 seconds to go, and the clock freezes at 12 seconds for 8 seconds probably. And the guy goes out of bounds, and Whittingham is incensed because he's like, how about we have 4 seconds left in this game and get the fuck out of here?
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean? And I'm kind of screaming at the TV in principle, right? You know what I mean?
It's the home field clock operator.
Yeah,
what are we doing? They would be helping
what are we
Utah
doing?
in whatever fiasco is happening. But yeah, so they didn't run the clock. Then when they reviewed it, they added more time back.
It was insane. Like Kyle was like, "That's bad." You know, like that is bad. You'll see tomorrow. That's bad, and we did see, and it is bad. So I wasn't seeing things. I wasn't hallucinating. Pac-12 officials. No. I apologize to people that watch that on the regular. Okay, and lastly, Clemson. We overrate them, then we underrate them. Like where are we now? I think we're probably underrating them.
Yeah, I think we are. Like I said, so they have 2 wins over top 25 teams, which is better than everybody else in the top 25. They also are on a 13-game win streak. So, like, think back to where we were at the beginning of last year, and all the narratives around Clemson because they lost to Georgia, and DJ looked really bad, like they couldn't do anything. So Dabo was like a little salty in the post game after this one because he was like, oh, brought up that, right? And he's like, winning 13 games in a row, like we're a good football team, and you don't just like accidentally do that. And so, he promoted from within. He stuck with DJ, which, by the way, no more quarterback conundrum there. Like he's the guy. He's played really well these last few weeks. And they've done a good job. Florida State like tried to come back in that game and showed a lot of fight at the end. But Clemson's really good at, even if they have a slow start, like pulling away from these teams that they've been playing. So I absolutely think we're underrating them, and like it's very possible that they're going to finish the season undefeated ACC champs and be back in the playoff. And no one is talking about that.
It's just boring. Because I'm trying to ignore it. I'm just like, nope. Like I'm always like, just I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. But I got to hand it to Dabo, and I'm not the biggest fan all the time. But Tony Elliott's here in Charlottesville. It hasn't started great. Like I'm sure he'll be fine. But Venable's not doing the best job at Oklahoma relative to expectations. Although those are high expectations. Like you thought maybe Clemson takes a step back. The coordinators have success. This looks good for Dabo. I mean, like it's good for the stability of that program, which we don't need much more of. So
and he promoted from within to replace those guys. He still avoids the transfer portal, like not a huge NIL guy, stuck with the quarterback when everyone was like, is DJ the guy? And he may be proven right on all of those things. So yes, it's not a great time to be someone who's like not a huge Dabo guy because it looks like all of his stubbornness is actually maybe going to pay off.
Yeah, and like hats off to him because, I thought he wouldn't be able to endure players being paid, but he's stuck around. I thought he was going to find another line of work when players started getting paid. But yeah, he's endured that, and he's endured the leaving of the coordinators, and yeah, he's doing it the right way. So hats off to Clemson and to Dabo. Okay, so that was college football week, whatever it was, 7, 8. How far?
7.
Golly.
7. We're at the midpoint. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank God. It just feels like it's getting late early. All right, Nicole, you'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, see you next week.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.